MNM and Riddle. This is the game that is going to end up week 2, day 4. And MNM versus Riddle. We're talking about a team that finally have the entire roster. Riddle, they're looking hot. MNM, they won versus X7, then they slipped, then they are back. I mean, it's MNM, Chemera.
Talk to us about MNM, Chemera.
All right, I know. I am kind of the specialist on the broadcast when it comes to MNM. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting story we've had so far. I think this is maybe the weirdest time that we could have had, you know, the meta change for them, because I feel like a team with Mishigu, and especially, in my opinion, Soft as well. Soft is a very aggressive early game jungler.
He is.
Historically, I think having the meta now shift potentially away from that, or what we do see is junglers try to get into lanes, but it's a lot harder to make these ganks stick unless you have true lockdown. So I think we've had a very weird time for meta shift to come in, but hopefully they can come prepped for Riddle, because I think, again, Riddle look really terrifying. I think the strong points are kind of mirrored.
But I'm throwing that one to trouble.
Yeah.
Talk about Riddle.
I think Riddle looked pretty good versus JDXL. There was that huge ultimate from FGG that almost destroyed Riddle. But what people did not see was Vladdy absolutely destroying Venza in the backline onto that one fight together with MNS. He literally dived blind with his Yone through the wall to dive into the backline from the river, and he assassinated them. So yeah, this is like the full iteration with the double Greeks in the solo lanes. Stefan in the jungle bringing a lot of that veterancy that we want to see. And of course, Kehvo coming back together with Nash. I just want to see what the full potential of this roster is, because I've heard a lot about my friend, the Rock7 from Greece, about both Vladdy and Jaxplank in the top lane, and I just want to see it coming to fruition.
That to me, I know there's Jaxplank. We have a lot of players coming in for Riddle, but to me, Stefan in the jungle, I'm going to say it. I'm a fan of Dan. Like, I think he's popping off on this split. If it wasn't for Dan, Stefan, to me, would be the jungler to look out for. He's hungry. He's a hungry dog, like, trying to chase everyone in the Rift. And I believe Riddle team is no longer the same as we saw in the previous split.
Yeah, I mean, I said it on Monday. I think one of the first things I said about Riddle was I think Stefan was individually the best jungler we saw coming out of week 1. So I think a lot of Riddle's game plans, I hope, will start to revolve around him, to be honest with you. I think his pathing is so strong and so efficient that I want to see, you know, Stefan maybe put on a bit of a pedestal, but in the sense of, in the jungle, competitive jungle sense of giving him agency champions so that he can, you know, enable himself, yes, but also enable his carries, because again, his solo laners are great from what we've seen. Vladdy and Jaxplank have both put on some very strong performance, but also you have Kehvo and Nash in the bottom side. Again, it's one of these rosters where realistically, you can play from every lane, and on top of that, you also happen to have a very, very proficient jungler.
Might as well look into the champions that are going to be
Can I shut down his dream right
Shut him
jump
down.
into Champ Select?
Yes.
12-11 is going to come through, and the Sejuanis are going to start coming in, the Zags are going to start coming in. Forget about your agency, buddy.
I know, I mean, this is the last day, I think. Do we move to 12-11?
I think so.
I think we probably will. But here we are, Pix bans. Lilia moved away. Lilia's been strangely absent, I believe.
Yeah,
the entire day from bans and pit.
A lot of coaches are like, so in the jungle right now, it's all this fast clear again, trying to speed run level 6 as fast as possible, try to get to the late game actually as fast as possible. And like, we're going back to the metas where like Graves, Nidalee, Hecarim, Lilia, were spam farm in the jungle. Obviously the timers are still the same. They haven't changed for you to be able to clear that fast. So you need to do something with your downtime. And I think Lilia level 6, particularly in choke points towards dragons and stuff, he really strives. So she clears fast. She's really good post level 6, so she's out of the game for now.
A stacked champion select, as one would say. We have to say it's now a ritual.
Jax, Plank, banned.
Gwen first pick, because we see, you know, the Jackson Gangplank removed away, and Riddle wanted to take off the Wukong and the Lilia as the first ban. Now, Lucian is still there for Kehvo if he wants it, and I imagine, knowing Kehvo, if it's not the hyper carries, it's Lucian who likes to play a little.
Always.
If this gets locked in, I think it's going to be Vladdy in the mid lane.
That's also...
because I know the guy, and he's most likely going to be like, you know what, it really... Obviously, it's still a flex, he can go down the bot side of the map, but I do very well see Vladdy play that in the mid lane. It gives a lot of agency, like you mentioned, to Viego as well. Perma shove in the mid lane, being that nuisance in the mid lane, allowing your Viego to play his own game.
I have to say, MNM have drafted.
Here he comes again.
Some pretty S-tier champions, and then they've kind of rounded it out with Twitch. It's going to be laning, I imagine.
Oh, okay, there we go.
That Nami kind of gives us the confirmation, and we've seen what this lane can do to weak early laners like Twitch, who can get punished by a lot of bursts like this, because Twitch's trading patterns typically want to be a little bit longer than what Lucian's want to be. So if he can stick after the trade, and he's not at threat of, you know, just getting 100 to 0, great. And honestly, Bailout can maybe play into those trading patterns potentially, which is something that I would like to hopefully track once we get the laning phase underway. But now, no true jungler has been locked in, so I expect Riddle might go with 2 jungle bans. But I've been hearing Gwen as a flex pick, from what I've been getting feedback from players, from coaches. We're yet to see it. I'm curious whether or not MN would be willing to do it, but I think they are doing the correct thing in banning away the Ornn. I wouldn't be too surprised to see another sort of agency engaged top laner or solo laner banned off the cards as well, because right now Riddle are lacking true hard engage.
Yeah, and we're looking at the Ornns, we're looking at the Scions, right? We're looking at like really tanky champions that you can use. On the other hand, if you're liking this, then you go towards more utility, something maybe like a Karma towards the mid lane, because if you're squishy, having all these shields and the speed ups can actually really help you at this point. So maybe we're looking at something like this. Maybe we're looking at something with a lot of sustain, like the Yone Vladi brought out the other day. Maybe we're looking at something like the Vladimir, even potentially, that can match the Gwen in scaling towards the top side of the map.
You know, I actually think because they banned away Ornn, unless they're just trying to take away the potential strong points of Riddle, maybe there is a little bit of credence to saying that Soft might be handling this Gwen in the jungle, to be honest with you. Otherwise, why would you ban it? Gwen absolutely monsters through Ornn.
It's free lane.
It's a free lane. So I'm starting to question it now, whether or not they're going to just chuck this in the jungle. They see Ahri, they're going to probably go for Chemera's Lissandra here. We've seen this, especially throughout MSI, started to become an answer to it. Mobile champions in the mid lane. Bring in the Lissandra to lock it down. We will get our answer. It's going to be Xin Zhao in the jungle for Soft, something that's a bit of a legacy pick for him when he came into the UK scene all the way back in 2019 on Phelan. He spammed this champion. He was a bit of a one trick. Playing it here, definitely a strong duo to try and shut down Ahri and Viego in the 2 early on.
I'd say maybe I'd like to see a Scion here. I think you're lacking really hard engage and you're lacking a front line. Oh, the Na also is a pretty good answer right here. Obviously, you need to be able to manage your Na bar as well. And Scion is always ready to engage, always beefy in the front line. But I think Na works pretty well as well. Now, of course, from the side of Riddle, I think there is more playmaking potential to have with the Viego, with the Ahri, with the Namilution. Remember, short range compositions are quite harder to execute. Once they stick on you, yes, but so far I don't see necessarily too many tools for them to completely stick onto their opponents. And I feel like if the Renata is alive in this game, Lucian can never dash into a fight.
And I'm not going to lie, I can't help but feel that if Riddle don't get a pretty sizable lead, I'm not sure how after 2 items, Riddle are going to team fight into MNM. Yeah. I feel like their engage options are so limited, and that the fact that I think Renata punishes 2 styles of teams. I think the teams that can really heavily stockpile and the teams that only have very, very limited forms of engage, and this is that comp for Riddle. That
they have both. Short range and limited forms of engage.
So I feel like Renata is going to be such a pain in the backside, and then once we start getting the resets off of the Lissandra passive, if that starts to come in, I think it's just lights out for Riddle. So Riddle, to me, they have the snowball this game.
And they have Renata. Renata's been banned throughout the entire day. This could be the key for MNM, or maybe Riddle can ride the wave for another victory for them. But that is a question that is going to be answered by the casters as we jump into the Summon's Rift. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Archer. We're getting ready to go into our final game of the day. I mean, the desk hit on it. It feels like MNM just have the tools.
Yes.
And it's now just kind of on them not to fumble it, to me.
So for me, I look at MNM's draft, and the thing which particularly stands out to me is actually they have go buttons, which is something we've seen a huge lack of today. So I'm excited to see how they pilot that, whether they can actually play things aggressively. I think if you do start snowballing around Lissandra, we saw what Nariki could do.
Yeah.
Even when that Lissandra reaches late game, becomes actually a pretty big burst threat against some of the champions on here. So for me, this is going to be a little bit different from the other games today, potentially. Hopefully we'll see it go a little bit more fast-paced, less of that stalling out. And for me, this is actually a unique thing to MNM. Even on the first week of play, when they were losing some of the games, they still played quite strong identity compositions. They had Galio compositions where they were trying to outplay in the side lanes against a gangplank. In this one, again, they have some ability to start going forward with the Renata ult, with the Lissandra pinning in place to get good value out of that. It feels like MNM have got some very intriguing identities of compositions that they want to play towards.
Well, we are on to the Rift for our 5th and final game. Our final game of the week as well here. Durability patch week is closed. Almost. We actually did
on hiatus until this time on Monday.
We did see Lissandra actually come out on Monday.
Yes, we did, from Nariki. Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember who it was into. Was it into Ari as well?
It wasn't Ari, because it was Furies. It was Bifrost. It was Nariki when they beat them in what was considered an upset win. But of course, Nariki came away with a win in the last game too. So maybe a recent run of form changing their own fortunes. I have to talk about the fortunes of these two teams, however, though, because MNM had a rough couple of first games.
I mean, MNM have had a rough couple of years, if we're going to be honest, mate.
True. They were typically up here in the top division, and then they ended up dropping out for a while, made their way back in for this year. And that being said, you know, I was saying they're rough times in the split. They did absolutely handle X7 like baggage in their win and just chucked them out the
they did.
The lift. And
it's interesting because Riddle, ever since the NLC has formed, have always been the team that's been, you know, kind of there, kind of not there at times. But like for the most part,
last year they really started to come up on the radar again.
It feels like they've been at least some level of consistent. MNM have always been this team, I mean, since the ESL Premiership, that have been so close to being like one of our top teams, and they've just always been that like sliver away. And then over the last couple of years, they've just fallen to the wayside. And ever since the formation of the NLC, like you were saying, they've been in and out quite a lot. They've, you know, had to play a lot of relegation games themselves.
Of course, it's potentially on the table, this split. It's only a couple of weeks in, but it is something that I think particularly for the bottom end of the table, where typically we're talking about Nariki and Singularity from that last game.
Yeah.
But again, it's only a couple of weeks in. And when you sat here at 1 and 2, you lose a couple more games and you start getting just the hair up on the back of your neck, looking at those Div 2 teams, which look fairly scary this time around. Of course, that started this week too, and MNM would love to avoid that.
Exactly, and I mean, you've got the likes of Soft, you've got the likes of Chemera. These are two kind of UK veterans almost at this point.
Yeah, they've got some pedigree to them for us.
Yeah, they've been around for a while at this point. So, you know, for these two, you know, maybe having some of that veterancy on you is obviously there. Obviously, Michigu as well, a player who's been kind of coming up on the radar more recently as well. It's good to see this MNM roster. I think it's Chemera talking about it on Monday. He thinks that this is probably one of the better iterations of MNM we've had as of late. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting story just to see, you know, how they play.
To benchmark them against the previous results.
I think he said, I think Jamada's words on the desk were on Monday, I expect them to at least make playoffs, which isn't
we had
that high on the top scale of things, but at least
so that's funny
playoffs.
because effectively got to the post show and we talk about, okay, what are our big the big overreactions rather? What's our big predictions? Jamada said, okay, I think MNM are going to make playoffs. I actually thought that Nariki could have a glow up this summer as well, given how they're developing. And we have to, given how they are in similar situations, could actually both be ending out the day on 2 and 2. Because see if Riddle also beat MNM to the punch on that one, but see if. It's a good time to check in very briefly on the start of the split and see who's got the head start on the new patch.
Nice little trade there by Vladdy. Shredder gets shredded.
Did he realize how little health he was on there? I mean, I guess there was a heal. I guess that's the thing. It's like, you sat there, I was like, you don't have the ignite. That could have been a heal bait if you flash it. I was like, that was me and Solo Q up going for that. But either way, at least Nami continuing to be so disgusting a lane, even though people are less likely to die outright. It's still so bursty early on into the game.
Yeah.
And the Twitch and the Renata lucky to get away without losing their lives that time.
Yeah, but all you need is to force them out. You don't need to kill them because now Michigu's in the lane alone, eating bubbles, eating poke, eating damage, electrocute proc, half HP, and now Michigu has to play careful again because this wave is away from him, and Kehvo can hold it here for a while, so they've had to pull Soft over to come and try and alleviate some of this pressure that is building up for Riddle in the bot side.
Soft's gone through that pink ward, gone through a full clear as well, but the thing is, Riddle do actually have really good vision on the top side of the map, and of course one behind Dragon Pit. I think that there's a big thing for Riddle in this game to have that jungle tracking. I actually think that this mid lane matchup as well as this bot lane matchup can flip a lot depending on what's happening with supports and jungles. For Riddle to know where Soft is all the time really gives them an extra ability to play through what can be very high damage matchups early into the game.
Yeah. Obviously there is that element of MNM do have at level 6 the ability to basically just deny Riddle from walking forwards. Shredder able to really have a lot of impact. And I think Soft now recognizing that, seeing if there is the opportunity to go for a gank, as Riddle are slowly pushing up. Michigu's going to go invisible. Shredder looking to catch out. Has got that handshake available, but Soft has spotted out on a ward, and Riddle are just playing with them. They know the Soft's about, and they know when they need to step away.
That's been one of the hallmarks of the day, if you've only managed to tune in for this one or didn't catch, particularly the X7 game at the start of the day. It feels like one of the big hallmarks of today's games have been how well can you play defensively? How close to the limit can you play, and how much time can you waste from people like enemy junglers? As you can see, Ash and Shredder trading their skill shots, and Shredder coming out a little worse for wear. This time Stefan is down in terms of the junglers to aid their bot lane, and Stefan, let's talk about him as well, because individually, this player's actually been pretty standout. Of course, new to the league in this split. Riddle changed all of their members, and you come into this split and have a player playing like Stefan has, even with the roster changing back and forth from week 1 to week 2 because of suspensions being served out by Vladdy for a couple of games. This player has been the person I've looked at and said, hey, they've really got it.
Yeah, no, Stefan has been really, really fun to watch so far, and, you know, a player with tremendous potential, let's say. But, you know, Riddle on the other side, they haven't been able to translate that potential into too many victories, just the one in their pocket. So it's very much kind of, you know, getting the feel for playing with this team, playing competitive and stuff like that. So there's lots of things to kind of keep your eyes on, but Stefan definitely a player that we want to watch their growth over the, well, not just this split, but obviously a few.
Hopefully many splits to come.
Yeah.
That'll be the plan. As I think that's something we can kind of say for I mean, I think coming into this iteration of the NLC as well, coming into the season, a lot of shake-up, a lot of new rosters built. We are starting to track that development. Now, MNM, actually in spring, I know we were talking about, we think that potentially this roster does have a high ceiling. In spring, they showed a pretty high ceiling as well. They had a good run of form from a couple of early weeks, petered off a little after that point, but that development isn't always linear. I have to see if MNM can actually make it stick this time, and of course, can get a little bit further up those standings as Riddle beat them to the punch on that time, and of course had their own real scalps that they claimed. Well, taking JDXL down of all teams in the first round of playoffs. They've kind of achieved a fairly good result in that last split, looking to actually meet that benchmark rather than achieve new heights compared to MNM.
What's been interesting about the kind of game state over the last, of the last day, to be honest, is how the priority on Gwen obviously remains high, but the priority on the banning of Gwen and kind of just leaving it open has slightly dropped off as Michigu looking to come in. Vladdy has to be careful, can get caught out by the ulti. Chemera just didn't pull the trigger, so Vladdy able to get away with the Spirit Rush, get away to safety.
That was a really good job. Gets it right onto Michigu. Maybe wondering if they could force out a panic flash or something as well as the Spirit Rush, but as you're saying, no, Chemera just not pulling the trigger on that one. Of course, Herald was being started at the same time. Michigu doesn't, it still has the ult and just runs straight past. Now she's like, yep, okay, gonna get back to Star, thanks.
Just wants to get this last 3 farm. No, misses one of them. Soft will be able to pick up this Rift Herald, something we talked about last game, you know, a bit of a, there's always been an emphasis on Rift Herald, but at the moment, because there's less kills, and getting plate gold is going to be extra valuable. Because of that, translating that into these kind of dragon fights.
I think what that comes down to is, I think it's something that you mentioned a little earlier in the day, probably at the end of that last game, saying that potentially as the weeks go on the new era of League, whether it's just a little less damage in the game, it's a little harder to play out through early kills. If you don't know how to play towards the limits and actually eke out early game advantages, can just go back to basics around objectives, and it is about those objective setups. I think that's why, again, we have to talk about those dragons and those heralds and how these teams want to prioritize them, because that's the easy way to set up for your big game-deciding fights.
Oh, ult comes out from Kehvo just to try and chunk out Michigu as much as possible. Kehvo actually will be able to pick up another plate here, or just about avoid it. Shredder hit 6, so now Riddle do have that kind of like, let's not get too close. Let's play it a little bit calmer now.
When you're playing with a cleanse, it adds in another factor to it, but you realistically don't want to be dashing into that, as Trouble was actually saying in pre-game as well. Well, Jack's Blank on the other side of the map, of course, picking up that cull on the Gnar. So another thing we're actually going to start tracking as well, because one of the things that we said earlier in the day, and this was actually around the JDXL game, was if you're giving up Gwen, you've got to really damn well prove it was worth giving up the Gwen, because Gwen has been such a main character, I suppose, in the meta that we've had. Michigu looking to chunk out with his ultimate, really going it. Oh gosh, that's
Bubble
good.
though, tidal wave's on. Michigan has to flash away, pop in the heal. They have the ultimate available if Kehvo overstays. Shredder doesn't even want to throw it down. First blood for Kehvo, and Shredder now having to dodge away from everybody underneath the tower. Burns the flash as well. Michigan just biting off way too much and eating a bubble from Nash.
Oh, and just doesn't flash the first skill shot. The turnaround damage from Steel is so bursty, electrocute. Press attack doesn't matter if you don't have an ignite. Riddle picking up that one fairly easily, but while this is happening, something's had to break in the cross map. It's going to be a Herald summoned in mid. Already a couple of plates gone down, and now it's going to be a lot of gold into the pockets of that Xin Zhao and Lysandra, which are a very bursty combo. And one of the things we're going to have to track when it comes to the team fights, a lot of the go buttons, a lot of the engage that we've seen lacking through today. Now there's a lot more gold in this game to make those fights start in the favor of MNM.
Well, first blood has been picked up for the side of Riddle, so that at the moment they've got themselves a pretty significant gold lead. They've been able to accrue a bunch of plates, and as you can see on your screen, it's Kehvo. That's where the gold is right now. Got himself a 1,200 gold lead over Michigan.
Oh, back in the day, we'd say that's a BF sword worth of gold. Less important now onto these AD carries, but it's still so much damage. You can see it coming through now.
I think that might just be one dead rat exterminated by Kehvo. And turns out, there's still a few things that do damage at the moment. Electrocute Nami with the old Lucian, still something.
What are we going to do tonight, Michigan? Same thing we try every time. Try to get back into the laning phase. It just doesn't work this time. Goes down another time. And it was a little risky picking the Twitch Renata. It feels like in this meta you can get away with some of the more risky lane combos because, again, you just have more stats to play around. You're not getting zoned off of waves so early into the game. But Michigan now getting punished a sizable amount. And Kehvo 2-0, lots of gold already checked in with that gold a little bit before. Was 1,300, probably close to about 1,600, 1,700 now with extra plates being put into pocket.
It's weird seeing the kind of rebirth of Twitch. I haven't been impressed by it today. I've seen this is our third Twitch in a row, and it just feels like it's still fairly an exposed champion, fairly punishable in a Jaxplank. Actually kind of vibing here. It's going to get sent packing. That's 2 ultimates burnt by MNM, though, for Jaxplank's evolve, basically.
That felt like some pretty Oscar-worthy performances from Jaxplank. They're going, hey, I'm here. I have an ultimate. And then Soft goes, oh, hang on, I don't really want to get caught up. But that because no one was behind him. It's like the old trick with Thresh putting the lantern behind him in a lane and walking up aggressively and seeing what he could burn. And Jaxplank getting a Crescent Guard seemingly for free from that one. And now Jaxplank, again, doing pretty well in the isolated matchup, absorbing a fair amount of pressure. But again, got to track back to this one. Gwen has come alive in those team fights, has been able to do so much damage when left unchecked in the group confrontations later on. That's really where we're drawing our eyes to on this top lane matchup.
Well, we're 13 minutes in. Dragon is not up and available for Riddle. They have already got themselves 2, though, so Mountain Soul on the board. And talking about, you know, even more resistances.
This could be an overstep. Look at Lysandra.
Gonna pop the blast cone. That was actually good. I think Riddle positioned really well there.
Yes.
They just stood on top of the blast cone to make sure that they could get out.
It's one of these, again, it's something that we see quite a lot in Modern League of Legends where someone thinks, oh, now's the time to invade, now's the time to push in for a turret, and they go beyond where their vision line is, and that's when they get punished. So in this case, Riddle not going to get full prey for that. However, much as the last play towards the bot side, which Riddle made, it's going to be damage on tower traded for potential plays towards that. Now, actually, Vladdy only hang on to that tower by just the smallest amounts of HP.
Denies the plate going down, though, to the side of Chemera, while Kehvo on the other side got the plate, got the tower as well. 610 gold given to them. You can see Gale Force in the inventory, got that Warhammer, got the
yeah, it looks like it's going towards the
as well. Yep, versus components. Yeah. I'd like to, once again, just rub salt in the wound and see the gold difference between these 2 AD carries, if we could toggle that. And yeah, there's
a cruel person, Hitbrain, sometimes. Just like, yeah, you know, I just want to see Michigan's pain very briefly. Thanks, Troch.
Well, you know, I'm suffering too, so I'll bring everyone down with them.
Hey, at least I got my Ori games today. That's fun.
Yes, yeah, and I've had 2 LeBlanc games.
Yeah, I mean,
LeBlanc games were very underwhelming. They both got fed.
I waited an awful long time for my main to become meta, because Season 3 was a time. Now trying to see if they can flex their muscles now. Gonna get
the charm, get the Everfrost off as well. Cleanse comes down, Vladdy just spirit rushes away. So hard to keep on top of these Ares. The needlework does a lot of damage from Kalen, but not going to stick too long.
Okay, so, but that's Cleanse down. Now, Cleanse, Flash, ult down from Vladdy. Period of time without Ori won't just be a solid control tap. Potentially MNM can look back to return to that later. But, as we've seen with many of these plays, both of these teams have been pretty happy to cross-map. This time it's Kehvo left alone in a side lane. And MNM lose themselves another side lane turret. And at this point, you're going to start losing vision from that too. They have themselves a defensive vision line. You can see actually on the minimap down there, leading up to the Herald, there are a couple of pink wards. Thank you very much, Observers. You're very on it today. But they don't have much vision across the river. There's like one pink ward, but while you do have a bit to defend yourself, you realistically, as we said right away from the start of this, want to be playing aggressively with engaged tools, with stuff like the Lissandra ult, playing into stuff like the Twitch opening up and the Renata buying space for the ultimate too. They're not really going to have the same ability to do that if it'll maintain vision control.
Do have that Rift Herald obviously in the pocket of a Riddle, and you know, a lot of people are going, MNM just got the tools here to be able to take this game down, but it's been these rotations, it's been these objectives, it's been these towers, these plates, everything like that that has led into a Riddle lead. It wasn't an unwinnable game for Riddle, it was definitely an uphill battle, but they have set themselves up very, very well to be able to try and take this victory. With this Rift Herald in the mid lane as well, it looks to me like Riddle are going to just commit multiple members, try and take this tower down, and at that point, that's where that vision tunnel you were talking about becomes even more oppressive because you can't step up.
I actually wonder if it's more valuable for MNM to not contest this river too much and try and get the tower themselves. Just play it a little slowly. Jax Plank going to get chunked out on the side by Caleb.
Oh my word.
Let's have the Mega. See that tower, again, just holding on at such a low amount of HP from Riddle's perspective of things. They do have that Herald dope, fighting over that mid-priority, seeing that a lot today. It's the easy way to get access into that river, not play around those choke points. And a Kehvo, oh,
Mishigu! So much health, but Kalen with the W able to block up all of the damage, but Mishigu just chunked out. He has no items, he has no damage to work with. Essence Reaver Gale Force onto Kehvo. MNM might just have to give this up, but Chemera looking for the flank. Michigu's still kind of feeling it. The tidal wave's only going to land on someone. The claw comes down. Chemera jumps in, flashes forward, locks everyone in place, loses his life though. Stefan able to get the answer out, and there is the Berserk coming down. Doesn't quite hit onto everyone with a hostile takeover, but Kehvo is popping off. Shredder is shredded by Kehvo. Able to get himself another kill. They get the slope from Jaxbank. The flash comes forward, and Shredder will fall. Kehvo gets the double kill.
And while Chemera does find an angle, gets into the place he wants to be. Honestly, for me, the MVP of that is the tidal wave and the disruption coming out from that. Oh, Mishigu, buddy. Oh, buddy.
Mishigu. Kehvo will flash. Kehvo will chase. And down goes the right. He keeps cancelling the autos. Mishigu's still running away. But Kehvo hold on his heels. They lost him. Mishigu.
So close. Well, we got to see the action which transpired once again though, and honestly this tidal wave does so much for me because look at this, the perma CC onto Soft, so Soft can't immediately dash in. Yeah, Ari goes down, that's kind of the extended benefit from the play earlier, burning that cleanse, but you don't get everything messed up right from the start with everyone back in the middle of things. It's just Lissandra on their own, only get that one kill, and sadly that's not onto the 2-item AD carry. You're talking about components left on the Twitch. They are still components. Riddle had the AD carry damage difference, and Kehvo played through it very, very effectively. Huge damage from the Lucian, and that was the story of that fight.
Yeah. I'm just not sold on the Twitch. This is multiple games in a row. Even the one game we've had a win, where Odie played it, Odie wasn't the winning factor for that game.
No, not at all. And I can see the logic, you know, I think that Twitch has a lot of extra X factors you can bring to it. I think the level 1s you can have are very interesting. Speaking of X factors, it's like Lissandra's on a very long flank. That vision control we talked about being control of Riddle actually briefly flicked over to MNM, but not pulling the trigger this time. Had an extended angle. Didn't want to dive in and meet a similar fate to last time, particularly with both cleanses up on the carries now. Much harder to land that killer flank combo.
Stefan needs to use this Rift Herald.
It's very close
about to time out.
You're absolutely right. I mean, they've taken down the turrets anyway. Stefan's summoning over the wall, going to go towards that bot lane, holds Caleb on the turret. I actually wonder if Riddle can start looking just around the fringes now, hemming back MNM, making sure that tower does go down. Caleb not able to respond to that herald just yet. And
there
Riddle
it is.
actually just taking the easy win, taking that easy gold, and Riddle, now they get to take that vision line even further forward. Again, more wards, more control, less ability for MNM to make their own plays. Their vision line, they're going to have it for about another minute before those wards clear out, and then it's going to be much more difficult for them to find those angles.
Well, Kellum has found out Jax Plank. You can see the damage coming out as the needlework has been thrown down. Jax Plank burning low here. Caleb continues the chase, but there is a red buff on Jax Plank plus the Q, so a lot of slows to work with. The Soft's coming in. Need to see Caleb get this kill, though. Soft probably not the best recipient of it, but he's going to try and make it work. And yeah, you really need your Gwen to get that shut down. That could have been a big injection of gold.
I think you had a choice at that point. You see that Mega Nard bar and you think, oh heck, that's actually going to be a fair amount of damage. Of course, the Triforce on Jax Plank meant that movement speed was really quite impressive with the hyper procs popping off too. But Riddle, they do get caught napping just a little bit. They weren't in position to counter with the Baron. That's normally what you see when you have an elongated chase on the bot side of the map. But Riddle managed to push in top side again. Get to kind of continue pushing in the full court press across the other lanes of the map and retain control of the areas which are important to them. Again, the real way they lose this is by one of those Lissandra flanks. It didn't work out in that last fight. Again, I think that Nash was the real MVP of splitting up that fight, but that shouldn't lull Riddle into a false sense of security. That is always going to happen that way. Just don't let the flanks happen. Make sure that vision control is still in control.
Well, MNM, they are going to be scratching their heads trying to figure out a way in. Yes, that mid tower gets you a bit of gold. Michigu kind of needs to just hit at least 2-3 items before they're actually able to play, because they are just completely shut out of this, unfortunately. Yeah. Just a lot of really oppressive bot lane play from Kehvo and Nash, and it is just taking Michigu out for such a long time. Caleb trying to find some semblance of relevance as well. Obviously has got a level lead over Jax Plank, but Jax Plank really feeling it as Caleb actually gonna go for this. Got Chemera in the pocket, and they're looking for the potential dive.
Oh,
but
he's under turret. He is under turret.
Caleb, what are you doing? And Jax Plank finds one. He's looking for a second. The slows are coming in. Chemera doesn't have the ult up anymore. He gets the knockback, and
he's got Triforce move speed.
He can just keep chasing down. The stopwatch is gonna get used, and Jax Plank finds himself a double kill.
That is why we do not mess with turrets on patch 12.11. You don't do it. On patch 12.10 rather. You don't do it. Too much damage. You have that Triforce, extra damage, extra ability to outplay with the move speed, chases down, and now when we said, oh, they weren't in position to take that Baron in the last aggressive side lane attempt that MNM have, they certainly are in a position to do that now. This is going to go straight into the Dragon. Huge series of play from Riddle.
Oh, Michigu gonna try and get zoned away. It's a good ultimate from Shredder, but only really lands onto two. It's Jax Plank finds the slam. Michigu gets the bailout, but it's not gonna go off in time. And Kehvo sliding forward, taking down another Soft, the only member standing, as he is cooked. The Orb of Deception will send him packing as Vladdy finds a double kill.
What a disastrous couple of minutes from MNM. Seemed like things were at least tenable. There was a chance, maybe a miracle flank, but they end up going for seriously what seems to be a huge lapse in judgment through that top side. Immediately follows into a desperation Dragon defense, but Jax Plank comes in after mullering the top side of the map, comes straight down towards the bot side, charges up Mega Nard again and slams him.
When you said a tragic couple of minutes, do you mean a tragic 23 minutes? Is that what you mean? This has just not been MNM's game. They drafted so smart, but they did not predict this Kehvo lane. Lucian, Nami, Kehvo, Nash just taking over so hard to the point where Michigu just isn't a champion. You don't have an AD carry. No. The enemy team has 4. This Lucian is worth 4 right now.
Oh, well, he's shooting enough guns for so many of them, the double tap passives, and he's so bursty. Infinity Edge built in, the Zeal for the extra move speed and crit. Yeah, I mean, Kehvo's at a point where you walk into a lane and Twitch pops out and says, hi, I was hiding. Yeah, okay, go hide 6 feet under in the dirt. Gets put down for another couple of kills. And I mean, Michigu has really tried to open up and abuse that matchup when he could, but every time he's gone aggressive, it's just been shut down so succinctly by Riddle.
Yeah, Riddle were just playing this game very smart. Like you're saying, it feels like they just kind of relied on good old by-the-book League of Legends. Play back, play chill, and just take the objectives and take the advantages that way. They're already onto an inhibitor tower. 25 minutes in as the inhibitor tower falls. The inhibitors should be quick to follow. Mountain Soul plus Baron just means that MNM don't have an answer here, but they need to find an opportunity. They could get a good ultimate out by Shredder. That could be their window. Turn Vladdy and Kehvo against each other, but they've both got cleanses.
You don't have Lissandra with a teleport. Maybe you can flash somewhere into it, but just trying to get something with Lissandra's going to get so hard. You see, even at this point, this feared Gwen, the almighty Gwen, not really doing much. Too far down at this point. Jax playing, honestly, the huge hero of this game outside, of course, that bot lane. And currently just making sure they can continue jumping into Chemera. Moving forward again, but cannot find the correct angle. Getting stifled by Riddle's impressive Baron shove.
There is just no fuel in the tank here for MNM. The marshmallows have been toasted, and their base has been destroyed.
They put diesel in the petrol.
I've done that. It was very expensive.
Well, this, judging by the amount of gold they're in deficit, would be wishing they'd had a bit more gold to spend on this one. No more expenses really to be allowed in this one. It feels like the game has been shut out for a little while since that last series of plays. Mountain Soul, of course, on there. Riddle just pulling the trigger.
Soft eating a lot of the culling. They're going to try and throw down the ulti. The Berserk's coming off. And oh my word, Nash is deleted. Vladdy's still alive. Kehvo's still alive. And everybody is low. Kaelin gets the bail out, but he's going to lose his life. The Twitch damage is just not enough as Mishigu will be slammed into the wall. Mishigu takes a dirt nap, and Chemera gets back to the fountain, gets back to safety. But Soft is on his lonesome. The base is just going to fall to the side of Riddle here. MNM need to pull out a goddamn miracle, and I don't think they have it in them. Towers will crumble, Nexus will fall, and Riddle just slaughter MNM.
And Riddle feels like they just outplay in a lot of ways in this game. MNM, we said they have the aggressive tools, they have the ability to go forwards in a way that a lot of teams haven't had in today's games. Then it came down to that one dragon fight. After that bot lane awkward situation where actually they didn't lose gracefully in a lane, which maybe you can do on this patch, and it felt like a couple of bad fights in a row. Riddle just ran away with the individual leads.
I mean, that was a bit of a bot diff, let's be real. I mean, the whole team played well, but bot diff. Like, really, Kehvo, absolutely amazing. I'm kind of happy to see a bursty bot lane still be relevant in this patch, and I feel like we might see more of this Lucian Nami because it seems to handle these champs that want to scale.
Still banned. Yes, this was one of the few times we've actually seen it come out, and I'm also happy for the player piloting that too. Obviously, Kehvo moving rosters in this split, having a great performance, and Riddle, one of these teams which again had a pretty good performance last split, took down JDXL, continuing on at least with a good early start, looking to maybe push in and reprise that performance in playoffs, maybe?
Well, 12-10 is a patch. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let our analyst desk talk a little bit more about everything that has gone on today and that game. So, Arkaram, over to you.
Thank you so much. And there we go. Riddle continuing to look really, really strong. They come in with a clean win. And you were talking about this in the green room, and I want to tackle this as fast as possible about MNM. They had one job to secure themselves some sort of a lead versus Riddle?
No, actually, opposite. They didn't have to secure a lead. They just had to deny Riddle from gaining such a lead that happens. That was, to me, that was basically the entire point of the competition. I think you get to a point where Twitch comes online, Lissandra's really hard to deal with.
Renata?
Yeah, you've got a Renata. Like, these are team fighting tools that in this meta are practically all S tier or like A tier and above, right? In my opinion.
Let's call it as it was.
Yeah.
The draft was a hard winning draft in our eyes, right?
Yes. And to me, I think Riddle's, one true condition to have a foothold in that game was snowballing through the bottom lane, and they kind of did that efficiently, and it slowly bled into the rest of the map. I think if you're able to secure champions like Gwen, Renata, listen to a good matchup, Zinzao, and you still kind of get hard stomped like that, I would have really big concerns.
But for Riddle, though, they got what they needed.
Yep.
They got where they needed specifically as well. This is what we're talking about. As soon as Riddle announced this composition, and then they're working full strength with some sort of scrims coming in, this seems like a playoffs team as well.
I just feel like the fact that MNM had such a strong draft that they didn't necessarily have to do anything and they could win, and then they threw the ball over to Riddle's court, and they're like, look, you have to make the plays, you have to shut us down early on in the game, or later on, 2 to 3 items like Ramada and I said earlier on the desk, the game is over. And I feel like the fact that Riddle showed that individually they can make this happen, and every single lane can snowball, and you shut down what you need to shut down towards the bot side of the map, I think it worked wonders for them, and I think it shows the strength in communication as well.
It's complicated to navigate with a team that is supposed to go really well against you, but they did it, and they did it comfortably as well.
Yeah, no, and I just think in general, it's definitely a bit of a risky play to in my opinion, draft what should probably be played in a mostly passive fashion draft against a player like Stefan, and then you're also dealing with Namilushin from Kehvo in the bottom lane. I think it was just a little bit too high risk. But again, I think if they just executed on not getting... I'm not going to say stomped, but it definitely wasn't an easy lane in the bottom side
Just
of that.
don't die, 5-head.
Yeah, it was effectively a game of don't die 5-head for about 15 minutes, and they probably would have cruised through to about 25 with relative ease. But again, I think credit to Riddle, right? They got the dragon stacking as well, things like that. Ensuring that they recognize the weaknesses of MNM's draft, albeit a very strong draft, is still what allowed Riddle to have such a strong foothold here.
If we're talking about cruising, Kehvo was the one cruising, and he's on the interview with us today after playing with Lucian and taking another W coming in for Riddle. Kehvo, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go.
Hello, guys.
Look at that smile.
Long time no
Look at that
see.
smile. I want us to specifically look into Lucian, and we see Lucian more and more often, even though we're on the patch that is supposed to go into the late game, and AD carries have been talking with me about I need to learn how to position myself and all that. Do you believe that the core strength of Lucian is, I know you want to get into late game, but I will not allow you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, even though it's the durability patch, I think Lucian Nami is still a very strong pairing. So I don't think it's not really weak later on as well. Like you can even go like Kraken Slayer now. And oh, I'm hearing a bit of an echo. Okay, well, yeah, I think like the pairing is still really strong.
It's a Dark Tech Lucian with the Kraken Slayer coming in with press the attack. Also, looking into this one, I want to understand your side if you believe that the Twitch is going to appear or not. We saw 3 Twitches today, and all of them struggled to get online.
Yeah, I think we'll see more Twitch for sure. I
Why?
think the champion is like hidden OP. I mean, it's like so hard to punish in early laning phase now because you can't stack up waves and dive. So you can just scale for free on Twitch. And yeah, the champ has so much damage, and it's like really fun to play as well. So hopefully I'll get to play him as well.
There you go. That's the leak. I was trying to get the leak. I got the leak.
That's where he was getting at, you know? He's like, he looks fun.
Oh,
I'll have it
I
one
get
day.
baited. I get baited.
Okay, he's really happy about this one. So let's see what happens on week 3. But the team from Riddle, now that you guys are together, it seems like a few scrims have been played by the team with this card composition as well. And things are looking way more easy for you guys. How are you feeling with this composition?
Yeah, I mean, we actually played a warm-up game. Like we pretty much had the same comp, and then we had the same champs as well. So we had a good read coming into the game, and yeah, we executed it pretty well. So
you think the team, like the players themselves, the core of Riddle nowadays, is a really good composition now?
yeah, I think so. Like we have the full roster together now, and we have some more scrims. So yeah, we're ramping up for sure.
Tell me something. Okay.
I have a very important question for
Oh.
Kehvo. Do the solo laners throw random Greek words at each other?
Oh,
I mean, it's us like joking, throwing some malakas in there, you know, every now and then.
Okay, fair enough.
we all participate in it.
Kehvo, if I may, and this is between you and me, okay? Nobody else is listening. Torok
Alright.
is talking smack. Torok is saying that he's going to end up the split undefeated. No team is going to meet up with JDXL. And if they lose, they have to present to us an entire video apologizing to NLC. Can you take them down?
Yeah, of course. Next time we play them, yeah, I'll put them on their knees.
There you go. I'm just spicing the story, man. Kehvo, thank you so much for the interview. Congratulations on another victory coming in from Riddle. And I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Have a good night.
Honestly, they were close enough.
Uh-huh.
They were close enough. The game looked very close. They had the Kog'Maw Lulu. It was 10k golded, but it didn't really matter overall in the team fights. So they were close enough this time, playing for the first time together as the core roster. Maybe next time that have gelled together a little bit more.
My objective right now is to build up a story around the JDXL.
You're literally making each other like gouge each other's eyes out. Like,
Yes.
you love blood, man.
Yes.
He's a Pantheon player.
He is.
Aggressiveness, like 12.10 took away the aggressiveness. So I'm bringing it
you tell
outside
me.
of the rift. So there you go. Now, for the MNM. Okay, I'm looking at you, Chemera.
Hi.
I'm looking at you. You told me.
You're literally the usual suspect when it comes to
Yeah, I
They
know,
could
I know.
go into playoffs. What is going on?
I mean, I feel like for the I feel like for the last 2 games, right?
Explain yourself.
They've had one condition that they had to meet, and I think they were both the same. Just don't fall the 5, 6, 7,000 gold behind before 20 minutes. And honestly, the game is borderline unplayable for the enemy team composition. But it just seems like whether it's momentary lapse in judgments or whether it's just maybe misunderstandings moment by moment, right? They're just failing at the earliest hurdles in their game right now, which is definitely a bit of a shame because, again, I kind of had the same level of faith in the old Resolve roster from Summer, which is obviously the top half of this MNM's roster as well.
It could be the adaptation coming in for MNM as well.
I feel like one of the biggest tools in that huge MNM victory that they had was Shredder on the Nautilus.
Yeah.
This guy was in every kill but 2 in this entire game. He was roaming the entire map. And now after that, he's been put on Renata duty, he's been put on Lulu duty. And even though I understand how important and strong enchanters are right now, I think it's the same story with FTG as well. You put them on a hard engaged champ where they can roam them up and be everywhere, and they'll just gift you the game.
Yeah, there was, I can't remember who it was on the interview earlier that said, it was like, you can still play those hard bullies. I think that is probably Mishigu and Shredder's best style. At the very least, it's the best style that we've seen so far. I want to maybe see that, maybe experiment with one more time on stage.
I'll make that question as soon as we hit with Chemera, the mid laner coming in from MNM after this face-off versus Riddle. Chemera, hello, good night. Obviously, I'm not going to steal a lot of time from you. I know how you're doing right now, so we keep this short. Okay, Chemera, I got you. So this was a tough game for MNM. You brought in specifically like a perfect champion select versus Riddle, but it just didn't work. Why is that in your perspective?
I think we're having a really difficult time adapting to this meta and trying to find a team identity. I think coming into the before the durability patch, we had found a really good way that we wanted to play, and we were really capitalizing on well. Scrims are going really, really well, which was evident in our win against 6-7. But ever since the new patch, we've just honestly been finding it really difficult to adapt. So I'm hoping that, we will over the next week or so adapt better and kind of find that identity and figure out how we want to play the game. But it's kind of evident from this game that we're not playing around what we need to, roaming, using our mid jungle Geo to go top to play around Gwen when there's a wave coming in bot is pretty int. So yeah, we just need to be better, set higher standards and have more efficient practice.
I just have one more question for you, and then you can go and get some rest. I want to understand that the meta shift, the patch is quite different, obviously, but the identity from your bot line is aggressiveness, rotation, trying to get something on the map. Do you believe that the patch is more influencing that sort of playstyle, or can you force that playstyle because your team really works that way? So what do you prioritize, the meta or the way that the team core existence exists?
I mean, if your team works best with someone like Shredder moving about on the map, playing something that can impact lanes, then I always think it's better to play a style that fits you. Kind of like similar to my previous answer though, because we've found it quite hard to adapt to this new meta as players, rather than, because obviously our drafting I think is completely fine. I think we just need to figure out, find something stable first. If that's going back to the comfort that we had on previous patches, that's fine, and we build off that and take it one step at a time. But for the moment, it's just not working for us. And yeah, we need to kind of get better at it. So I think just going comfort and going back to something that worked in previous patches is the way to go, if I'm honest. And
it
we
might
build
be
from
the
there.
solution, yeah. Chemera, go away, man. I got you. So thank you so much for the interview. Speedy recoveries for you, man, and best of luck for the next games. Have a nice one.
Cheers.
So yeah, maybe getting comfortable with the way that you play is better than looking into the patch.
I mean, honestly, I think there is an angle for it, right? Because a lot of that sort of aggressive play style that you'd want to, leverage, I think lent a lot on 12-9's ability to kind of just tower dive at any moment. And obviously, that's the core part, which is very difficult. Maybe there are still aspects of that style of gameplay that you can sort of lean on, and I'm curious whether or not we'll see, especially maybe even after this talk, there's something that stirs in Chemera's mind. Having worked with him before, I know he's the kind of player that will go back and bring these ideas to teams that he's on and just say, okay, look, this isn't working, we need change. He is that kind of in-game leader, so I'm hoping for MNM's sake they can do that. But yeah, I'm curious because obviously meta is something that is often very much perceived. Sometimes, yes, there are always going to be things that are stronger in the game or weaker in the game. But maybe, again, everyone is leaning on these enchanters, right? At the end of the day, yes, it might be harder to play these kill lanes into the bottom lane. But if that is your style and that's how you play the game, why try and shift away from it if at the moment you look significantly weaker on trying to adapt to the meta?
And if you can identify the problem and tackle it straight away, it takes you a week and then prepare yourself and who knows what's going to happen on the third
I
week.
feel like X7 did a very similar thing, right? They were like, okay, we brought MC, we gave him Needle, it didn't work. We gave him Zinza, it didn't work. Put him on the Viego, it worked. Put him back onto the Viego, even B1 the Viego. It's very safe, it's something he's comfortable on. It's something that it worked previously. We played Senna bot lane, put it down there again. Camped on his Azir, huge pick, put him on the Azir again. So you like pick these pieces that are so comfortable for your players, and then you just shove in like the last little remaining puzzle piece as well to just complete the draft. I think going back to the drawing board and prioritizing maybe comfort, and then maybe sliding in some meta points at the very end as well.
And I think that is always the band-aid fix. Having come from teams or been on teams that eventually do break, going back to comfort works. Genuinely, if you need to eventually find an endpoint, which is development, going back to stuff that players either enjoy playing or at the very best is their best style of play, whether it's champions, whether it's style, high economy, low economy, whatever you kind of style of play you want to get into. That typically is the foundation of getting back to the top of of your own game, or getting back to the, at the very least being able to compete with what is meta, even if it's not meta at the moment that you're trying to, play your own style.
If you're comfortable with it, just stick to it and let's see what happens
Just
for
win.
MNM.
Just win.
5-head.
Just win. The play that won today, the play of the day from MasterCard is going to be shown right now. I have no idea.
Did I mention the
which
player?
one is it?
Did I mention the player?
You know the player?
I think I do.
Okay, let's take a look.
I think I do. I think it's gonna be Tempt's big
Damn.
shuffle in this particular game. I just love the way how you will see him at the very end. He's like lurking towards the very back of the fight. He's allowing the fight to happen. But once that Xayah ulties, he just shoves the whole team towards the feathers, which means that these Xayah feathers have zero impact, and it would have been huge if the Xayah feathers were able to be pulled back into his entire team. So I think that his play was absolutely insane. It was very clever how he wrapped around, and even though he walked through vision, the team fight was already so far underway that you're not going to stop and be like, oh yeah, by the way, guys, Azir's flanking us.
Yeah. and that was a pivotal moment in the game, because to be honest, I think if Veneer were able to have a successful team fight, there was a genuine chance they, at the very least, could have staged the beginnings of a comeback, but that was the complete shutout for Veneer, and it was all off the back of Tempt's play.
Team came in with the stop sign and completely derailed that one for Veneer, and they got themselves the perfect week for themselves. I mean, let's look into the standings so you can understand where X7 ended up this week. You can see them with 2 victories because they started off a little bit weak on week 1. JDXL, though, are undefeated so far. Bifrost are just following them. Astralis Talent, Dusty, Nuriki, Riddle, Vanir, and X7. Everyone is tied up. And then following a team that is still trying to find themselves back into the meta, MNM Gaming and Team Singularity with some issues not only inside of the Rift, but as they told us, outside of the Rift as well. So these are the standings so far on week 2. JDXL really comfortable, but who knows?
I don't know, man. I'm just waiting to see that X7 rematch because X7 were not running on all cylinders, and I think this is a game that a lot of people have their eyes on.
I like that idea. So what are we going to have next week on week 3? These are the schedule. Nuriki versus JDXL. Dusty versus Vanir. Riddle popping off versus X7 now running at full steam. Astralis Talent versus MNM Gaming. This could be a good opportunity for MNM or maybe Astralis to look into the top of the standings. And Bifrost will face off versus Team Singularity. This is going to be a rough one for SNG.
Yeah, no, agree. SNG's run of form and schedule is probably just going to get harder from this point. I don't think they've played any of the top teams just yet. So good luck there. It is kind of do that. I'm looking towards Dusty Veneer as probably my game to watch out for. Dusty looking a little bit, iffy. We heard from Denboxney on how they're feeling about the game as a whole. And I think that's probably where I'm looking. I think the Astralis for MNM, in terms of story, I think in the longer form, because Astralis have, been a team in spring who are struggling with the issues that MNM are struggling with as a team right now. But MNM now actually, or rather, Astralis now seem to have a better idea of how they want to play the game. Whereas obviously we just heard from Chemera on the interview, it's not quite the same case there. And of course, I think middle game too. I think 2, 3, 4 for me.
What about you, Trouble?
Yeah,
Anything
I'm looking at Riddle versus X7 Esports because Riddle popped off today. And yes, X7 are coming out with a 2-0 week. But again, I'm more than 70% sure that they've returned to form. But it's also the pads and it's also the comfort. What happens when you take that comfort away?
What can we look from this week 2? What can pop to us like final words for week 2?
Enchanters still seem to be broken.
Yes.
Or
The
now
games
seem
are
to be
still
broken.
very annoyingly long.
The games are now incredibly long. Yeah, I think it's going to take time to adapt. We're still going to have, even on our end, to be honest, getting used to the longer games. But yeah, I think teams really do need to get to grips with, hey, mistakes in the early game can be made in, some teams that are falling too far behind.
Just make sure you make them under tower.
Yeah, just make them under tower. That is a great point. If you're making mistakes, make them under tower. They are your new best friend. But yeah, we're getting to the point where 30 minutes, elapse very quickly, and then it turns into a game of one bad team fight. We'll lose you the game. It's old school League of Legends. I love it. I don't know how people feel about it, because I know it is a little bit slower paced than what we're used to, but it is still the new version of the game. And I think it's bringing us, honestly, more enjoyable games to watch overall.
It's not as punishing as it was back in the day. Now you can bring something weird into the line, something more spicy as well, and maybe make it work. I don't know how you are enjoying the 12.10. Let us know at Twitter, and we'll try to get you back with that one. But for today and for week 2, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are an amazing community. We are growing non-stop, and I love you very much. Keep feeding in the Summoner's Rift. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ayo.